Hello, Port St. Lucie. Welcome back to the channel. Today we have the privilege of speaking with Zach Greenberg, owner broker of Coastal Real Estate Professionals in Palm City. How are you doing, Zach?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on, Jamie.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for being here. Before we get into it, and I'm excited because you're talking about one of the topics that I get a lot of question on, and that's on investment properties. So I'm excited because not only have we worked on it, but I know you do a lot of business in that area. So I know that you're going to share a lot of great information with the audience. But before we get started, I did have a couple housekeeping items I wanted to touch on because I will forget to mention it at the end. So I made myself a little reminder here. So first, I just wanted to remind the audience that I do put out a video, usually 5 to 10 minutes in the mornings. And I try to touch on, it's on the Port St. Lucie market, which is usually inventory rates. I touch on the market to kind of see where that's going. And then also I try to leave I try to end the video with a local article that affects, us here in the market. So it could be something like news coming to our community, or maybe a bigger thing like the FOMC meeting with Jerome Powell that obviously will impact interest rates and our real estate market in general. So the second thing I wanted to talk about was I wanted to invite, just a reminder, if you are interested in being on the show, please feel free to reach out to me. If you're a real estate professional, let that be a realtor, an inspector, another mortgage loan officer or broker, an appraiser or title agent. We'd love to have you on the show. That way you can share your knowledge and your expertise with the audience and give value back to the community. So in saying that, Zach, again, thank you for being on the show. I'm excited. And let's just jump right into it. So before we get started on my questions, please give the audience a little bit background about yourself. Introduce yourself to everyone here.
Sure. Thank you so much again, Jamie. So I've been the broker owner of Coastal Real Estate Professionals since 2014, so 10 years. I've been in real estate for over 12 years. And I also have a property management company, Coastal Management Professionals, that we just launched this last year. So
Awesome.
So I'm really excited to talk about investment properties because that's one of my passions in what we do.
Excellent. Well, congratulations. I did not know that about you, that you had opened a management company. So that's great. That's great. So you are definitely in the investment world. So we're excited. All right. So let's get started. So I know that you work, and we've worked in these kind of scenarios where you get a lot of newer investors asking questions on maybe purchasing their first investment property. And I know you also work with a lot of experienced investors out there. Tell us a little bit of how you approach both of those scenarios.
Sure. So with a brand new investor, my number one recommendation is to start small. Either a 1-unit or a 2-unit property. If you're looking for a rental, which it's my favorite part about investing in real estate, owning it long term, having the cash flow coming in and all the tax incentives that come with owning real estate long term. So the reason that I recommend 1 or 2 units at first is because it's something you can wrap your arms around. It's something that's more manageable, and you can get the experience as a landlord, which is paramount in being successful in real estate investing. So with that, whether it's your first property that you're buying to live in with the intention of it being a rental property in the future, or you're going to just be going straight the investment route, either way, my recommendation is 1 or 2 units. That's for
Perfect.
somebody new.
Yeah, and before we get into the experienced investor, that's a great point. A lot of people that are looking at investing, maybe they get the first one and they already want to scale that up. And I get the Burr calls all the time, like they bought it last week, now they already want to refinance to get the money out today. I'm like, wait, whoa, pump the brakes. So I like that approach because it's common sense, and a lot of people know that it's they want it to be their passive income, but it's work, right? Especially at the beginning, it's work learning to be able to manage working with tenants, getting tenants, upkeeping of the house, the expenses that come with it, and I'm sure you'll share a lot of other things, but thank you for sharing that. So tell us a little bit about the experienced investor. How do you normally help them?
Sure. So ultimately, when you're analyzing an investment opportunity, it's all about the numbers. It's not personal, it's strictly business. And it comes down to what their goals are, what return they're looking for on whatever project they're going to be taking on next. And, that's where you do, as a real estate broker, that's where you do your search for them based off of that. Whatever their goals are, whatever the numbers are, you take the emotional part out of it because it's all numbers and it's just a business decision.
Okay. Now, what do you do with, because I get this on the mortgage side, what do you do with those maybe potential buyers that their goals are maybe a little bit outside of their expectation is outside of, let's say, reality, right? Like going in, this ain't gonna happen. How do you handle that?
So personally, what we do is we do a live Google spreadsheet with all of our investors that we're working with, where we find opportunities and we run numbers where they have access to it, we have access to it, and they can see what's actually available on the market. And this is one thing that we train all of our agents on. And it's a human nature thing, really. There's always an expectation of, there's always a process of expectations coming down and price going up, or, expectations coming down, return going down. It's important to be upfront with people, but yeah, there's a lot of information out there where people can have unrealistic expectations to start with. And it's just a matter of whether or not, quite frankly, real estate's for them.
Yeah.
It's a long-term play. So, with real estate, especially with rentals, it's super important that there's positive cash flow. And then, that's what keeps it sustainable. And that's where it all starts, really. And then, the numbers, they come in after that. It's not even worth looking at if it's negative cash flow from the beginning.
That's not a good way to go in.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. So you basically show them the facts, and
Yeah.
because some realtors may, it doesn't matter about the realtor part, but maybe even a mortgage broker, they come to me with these unrealized expectation, or, where we know it's not going to happen. It could be frustrating on our side, right? Like, that ain't going to happen. But, having that information to share with them, hopefully it does half the battle, right? It convinces, or at least puts them in a mindset that it's going to be different than they initially walked in. So,
Yeah.
Now in today's market, look, every market is a little bit different. Some are better than others. But in today's market, how are you helping the investor? Like, what are you looking for in the market? How do you feel the market is for investors? Any insight and any tips or advice that you would give someone interested in that process?
Oh, for sure. So I think right now is a great time to acquire investment properties because properties aren't moving as fast as they have for the last couple of years or last 3-4 years. So, and obviously that's because of the interest rate environment. But with that, it gives you a lot more leverage with negotiating with sellers. Like, of course, there's still multiple offer situations when properties are priced aggressively and when it's a really desirable property. But oftentimes, sellers aren't getting multiple offers over asking price. I'm not going to negotiate after inspections. I'm not going to reduce to appraised value, things like that. So now's the time to really be able to negotiate to make the numbers work. And especially if you're buying in an investment property with financing, which, that personally, that's the way that I like to do it. That's the way that I recommend. So you can leverage not only, somebody else's money, as in this case, the lender's money, but you can build relationships with mortgage brokers where they have access to all sorts of different financing options. So that's super important. But what I'm getting at is if a property is going to have positive cash flow with financing in this interest rate environment, then eventually, hopefully, rates will come down. We don't know when. But whenever they do, there's always the option of refinancing, have even more positive cash flow, and potentially pull out a little bit of money for the next project.
I like that. I like that. And like you said, going in, they want to make sure they're cash flowing now, with the hopes that rates will, and look, rates at some point will go down, but you don't need that to happen for them to be successful. And I think that's where the value is in that route. So now I know that obviously you probably have a ton of these experiences and examples, but could you share a situation or a buyer that you may have helped, let it be 6 months ago, a year, 5 years ago, that you, with of course not giving obviously any personal information, but just giving us the scenario and kind of how it's worked out and how you've seen that progress into either just generating more income or purchasing more properties, growing their business?
Sure. I can tell you, as recently as in the last year, and this particular buyer wouldn't care what I share, but I won't share too much. They, we were looking at a condo investment. It was already rented well below market rent, and the numbers when we ran them with the mortgage and the HOA fees, or the COA fees, I should say, and taxes and insurance, it was basically break even at that below market rent number. So we went in, we talked to the seller's agent who had direct contact with the tenant. We checked in to see what their intentions were. They wanted to stay. They knew they were below market. So we ended up putting in an offer. We closed with a break-even free cash flow. Immediately, we talked to the tenant about the conversations that have already been had. So we were able to slightly increase the rent. So now there was positive cash flow on the transaction. The tenant was happy with it because it was still below market, but it was now taking, a situation where it wasn't a good investment opportunity to something that was very positive all around. And eventually that tenant did end up leaving, and we were able to re-rent it right away at market rent. And that turned into a really good situation for this investor. And this is a fairly new investor. That was his second unit. And, what I'm getting at is it's not always surface level. Sometimes it takes a little bit of digging. If you just analyze that property based off of what it was currently rented for and whatever price the seller was willing to sell it for, then it might not look like a good deal. But it very quickly at closing became a good deal. And then shortly after, once the tenant moved on to something else, it became a great deal.
Okay, excellent. So now you touched on condos, and I know, condos have been, kind of on the radar due to their association fees increasing. Let that be because their main the master policy is higher, right? We've seen it because of that, or just the maintenance of the buildings, or these inspections that are, I don't know, every 20 years, whatever, goes. But obviously those costs have gone up. Are you still seeing opportunity there in the condo space?
Even better opportunities from a negotiation standpoint if the increase in the condo dues is already priced in. Because you hit the nail on the head. These master policies, they've skyrocketed. I happen to be on a couple of different condo boards in communities where we own investment properties. And I can tell you, like, in some situations, we budgeted for 60% increases, and then it ended up being 150% increase. And, I will say I'm not in the insurance industry. This is just based off of what I've seen. Those policies have started to level off, in the sense of we're not seeing double-digit increases, or triple-digit in our case. But with the increase in dues, there's opportunities for buyers because naturally the properties sit a little bit longer. But it's all a numbers game. It's working out that monthly cash flow number, whether the rent's going to be more than the condo dues, plus the mortgage, plus the taxes, plus the insurance, and any potential maintenance costs that you would expect along the way. But it's very important also with condos that you're looking into whether or not they have been doing work to potentially be able to see any special assessments coming down the pipe in the future, and what their reserves are like. So like the opportunity that I was just mentioning before, initially the buyer was a little turned off because he's like, hey, the dues went up a lot over the last couple of years. Why is the budget so much more? Do they have reserves?
Mm.
What's going on? And we were able to see fairly quickly that about 5 years ago, they had started preparing to do major projects in the building that were, it caused them to have a healthy reserve because they were prepared for it about 5 years ago. And then the increase in costs was due to their insurance, just like everybody else.
Everybody, we're
Yeah.
all feeling the pain. But you brought a good point just by how you explained that, is that you go further than what's on the surface. You got to go deeper. You got to go find out not only what the numbers are, which are obviously the important part that you're trying to say, but why, right? Why did they increase? Okay, they increased. Oh, they're sky high. Okay, great, they're sky high. But let's find out why. Oh, because they're going to do the improvement, because they're going to do this, or they're changing out, or so the why is probably even sometimes more important than how much it actually increased. Then lastly, I know you do you gather a lot of information. Are there any tools that you use that are available to other agents that you would recommend that are watching the channel, or a potential buyer that is interested in getting a little bit, maybe doing their own legwork at the beginning before they reach out to a professional like yourself for more information?
Yeah. So, obviously the mainstream websites, realtor.com, Zillow, they have a bunch of information. Sometimes they're accurate, sometimes they're not. But it's very important to partner up with a good agent, or a good agent that has access to people that have experience in the investment field. Like for us, the number one tool we use is the MLS. Like that is what we use to analyze comps on both the sale and the rent side. Um, there's other websites too, Rent a Meter. There's different mortgage apps. Again, though, on the mortgage side, my number one recommendation is to talk to your preferred lender about what rates may be. That way you can get an accurate number when you're calculating these estimations. But there's tons and tons of information out there. So sometimes, it might be too much information. So you really want to get an accurate representation. Because I've seen, a Zillow's estimate be $3,900 a month before for rent.
No, that can't be. And
And
they're always
and then
accurate.
and exactly. And then I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, I haven't seen a property lease in this neighborhood for more than 3,300. How are they coming up with 4,000, and vice versa?
Right.
I've seen, 2,000 when I'm like, oh, I can get 2,500 all day. So it's very surface level using a lot of these tools and websites because it's all algorithm based.
Right. Right. Good information. Lastly, how do you make an investment property a passive investment?
So with real estate, it's almost never going to be fully passive. So that's important for everybody to understand, unless you invest in like a real estate fund. Um, but with property management companies, you can take most of the legwork out by paying a nominal fee. Usually it's either a flat fee or a small percentage of the rent. And, it helps you be able to make your investment more of a passive investment.
Perfect.
So
And you said the truth. You're gonna have to work. It's never 100% passive,
yeah,
right?
100%. Never,
Because
never
something's
ever.
gonna break, or somebody's gonna reach out, or somebody's gonna leave unexpectedly your apartment, or some damage. We live in Florida, we get storms. There's gonna things that may keep you up at night when you're an investor, right?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so it's good to have good people around you on your team to help you mitigate those issues and get through them. So thank you for sharing that. Now, again, what is the best way that we could, someone is interested, let's say in the management or in your experience, with your professional real estate experience, how's the best way someone could reach out to you?
Sure. My cell phone directly, 561-310-9672. My Instagram handle is Zach Coastal Greenberg, and my Facebook's Zachary Greenberg. or on our website, coastalrepros.com. Any of
Perfect.
those ways.
Perfect. And I'll go
Yeah.
ahead and add that to the video.
Cool.
So anyone that wants to reach out has additional questions specifically to or especially to investment properties, they could reach directly out to you. Other than that, any last words that you wanted to share on investment properties
Yeah.
or working with investors?
100%. I fully believe in an abundant mindset. So any realtors that are looking to start working with investors or anything, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to share whatever insight I have. I'm happy to, analyze properties with you and give you advice on different situations. There's not enough of us that are willing to work together and collaborate. So,
Yeah.
feel free to lean on me for that.
Excellent. So folks, if you learned something, and I know I did, you found value in this video, please don't forget to click that like and that subscribe button. I'll go ahead and add another video to the side over here. But again, I want to thank Zach for being on the show. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. And I'm sure we'll be doing these again in the future.
Yeah. Thank you so much for inviting me, Jamie.
All right. Thank you. And to everyone else, have a good one.